not 70, 60% of paper was from microprocessor 8086 chapter.
Ah,
अरे क्या क्या नहीं
I don't
पूछा है
know
यार.
what they were doing, yeah. So they were, was it not from the previous year's paper?
एक क्वेश्चन रिपीट नहीं था, सिर्फ एक माइक्रो प्रोसेसर करके एक छोटा सा 2 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन था, वो रिपीट था. और डेसिमल हेक्सा वाला एक क्वेश्चन था. दे डोंट इवन आस्क टूस कॉम्प्लीमेंट, वंस कॉम्प्लीमेंट, वो सब भी नहीं. सोचो 8086 का ब्लॉक डायग्राम तक नहीं पूछा उन्होंने.
What paper did you give
सीरियसली.
today?
सॉरी.
So were there K-maps and stuff? Is that the paper you gave?
हाँ, एक एक के में पाया 5 मार्क्स का, एक 6 मार्क्स का वो सम था, डेसिमल टू हेक्सा बाइनरी वो वाला. और एक 2 मार्क्स का मल्टी व्हाट इज मल्टी प्रोसेसर, वो 2 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन 5 में एक एंड में पूछा बस. सोचो सिर्फ 14 मार्क्स का था जो रिपीट था. आई वुड नॉट से रिपीट, मतलब उन्होंने 8086 को इतना इंपॉर्टेंस दे दिया कि उनको लगता है 8086 आज के दिन में हर कोई यूज करता है.
लेकिन 8086 is there in the assignment.
Yeah, it is in the assignment. I agree. Like you can like they have asked 3 sums. 6 मार्क्स के 3 सम्स उन्होंने 8086 के पूछे. 8086 के एक एड्रेसिंग मोड का एक 4 मार्क्स का था, प्लस और भी कुछ 2 क्वेश्चन थे 8086 के रिलेटेड ही. डिफरेंस बिटवीन .com एंड .exe इन द कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ 8086. ये तो कभी सोचा भी नहीं होगा ये क्वेश्चन तो किसी ने.
My sister also reappeared for the exam, so let's see what she has to say. She'll get the paper. I'll look at it.
जरूर पूछ लेना उसको.
ठीक है, चलो. I'm sure you'll get at least good marks, yeah.
देखते हैं इस बार थोड़े बहुत तो पिछली बार से ज्यादा आए.
हो जाएगा, don't worry.
You can apply for re-evaluation.
Let's
re-evaluation attempt ही नहीं मार पाए हैं. Sajjan was with me and Sajjan came out of the examination hall in 1 hour 20 minutes.
Wow. Okay. No worries. आ जाएगा, don't worry. Let's be positive. Okay, so let's start. I'm starting with the Java.
Imran, I'll not be able to talk. I'm traveling by train, so just continue. I'll just listen.
No problem. That's completely fine. So we studied yesterday what were packages. So packages were actually a collection of classes and subclasses as well, which are similar type. And types of packages in creating a package. So there are 2 types of packages in Java. Built-in packages are packages. Built-in packages are the packages that this is something wrong here. 1 second. Built-in packages are the packages from Java API, for example, Swing, Util, Net, IO, AWT, Lang, JavaX, etc. Importing a package, import package.name, import java.util, all. Then user-defined packages, create your own package. A package can be created using a keyword package followed by package name, package first package. So there are 2 types of package: built-in packages, which are from Java API, example Swing, Util, Net, IO, AWT, Lang, JavaX, and then you can import them using import statement. You can either import all of the classes or you can import just the specific ones. And then there are user-defined packages, which can be created using the keyword package. So Maya, let's do a recap of this. So what are the types of packages?
Built-in packages and user-defined packages.
Okay. And what are built-in packages?
Built-in packages are already available in the Java library, like java.util, java.lang, java.io.
Yes. And how do you import it? Like if you want to import all the classes from a package?
Import with star java.io.star.
Right. And import a specific class. Let's say scanner.
Then specify the name of the class. Import java.util.scanner.
Yes. What is the second type of package?
User defined package.
Okay. How do you create that?
Uh,
You use a keyword called package and then the name of the package.
yeah.
Okay. Moving on. So now we'll get into the detail of how a user-defined package is created in Java. First, we declare the package name as the first statement of a program, like so. Then we include the class as a part of the package. So whatever class you're going to add here, that will become the part of that package. So in order to generate above desired output, first do use the commands as specified. To generate the output of the above program, you'll say Java welcome.java. So basically, you are running this file. Above command will give us welcome.class file. Then you'll say Java -d dot welcome.java. So this command, okay, this command will create a new folder first package. So this command basically Java first package dot welcome, and the above will give the final output of the program, which is this. Okay, so to generate the output, you say Java and the welcome.java. Above command will give us welcome.class file, Java -d dot welcome.java. This command will create a new folder, Java first package dot welcome, and the below and then finally the above command will give the final output of the example program. Okay, so interfaces is basically a blueprint of a class. They help in the multiple inheritance, and they contain the static constants and abstract methods. There should be a comma, I think. Containing static constant. No, that's fine. Java an interface is syntactically similar to a class, but they lack instance variables, and their method are just declared without having any body. It means that the interface can only contain constant declaration, method declaration, and default methods, static methods. Okay. So Maya, what is an interface?
An interface is a blueprint of a class that contains static constants and abstract methods.
Okay. What is one feature that interfaces provide that is
Uh,
doesn't exist in the Java by default?
Multiple inheritance.
Okay. Okay. Advantage is total abstraction. Since Java doesn't support multiple inheritance in case of a class, by using interface, it can be achieved. Since Java does not support multiple in case of a class, this doesn't sound right. We can achieve multiple inheritance using an interface. Interfaces. It is also used for loose coupling. Could we find some more advantages for inheritance? Oh, it's interface, not inheritance. नहीं easier to test. One key benefit of using interface is that it makes unit testing easier. Faster development. Increased flexibility. So may I just add a couple more later on to this?
Okay.
So moving on. So total abstraction, loose coupling, multiple inheritance, and makes testing easier. Okay, let's do the difference between abstract class and interface. This is like one of the most confusing ones, but yeah, I will try. They can have abstract and non-abstract methods. Interfaces can only have abstract methods, default, and static methods. Abstract class does not support multiple inheritance. Interface supports multiple inheritance. Abstract class can have final, non-final, static, and non-static variables. Interface only has static and final variables. Abstract class can provide implementation of interface. Interface can't provide the implementation of the abstract class. Abstract keyword is used to declare abstract class. Interface is used to. Okay. An abstract class can extend another Java class and implement multiple Java interfaces. An interface can only extend another Java interface. So abstract class can extend another Java class and implement. Okay, fine. An abstract class can be extended using keyword extends. This is with implement. So three things I think will be easier to remember. First is it uses these keywords, and while you're extending or implementing, and the uses those keywords. And this one is like we know that we can extend a class or implement an interface, but we can't do that here. We can only extend an interface. Java abstract class can have members like private and protected. Members of Java can are public by default. We can give an example that would be an easier thing to do for both. Okay. So where do you want to read this, and then we'll do a recap.
Okay. Abstract class can have abstract and non-abstract methods. Interface can only have abstract methods. Since Java 8, it can also have default and static methods. Abstract class doesn't support multiple inheritance. Interface supports multiple inheritance. Abstract class can have final, non-final, static, and non-static variables. Interface has only static and final variables. Abstract class can provide the implementation of interface. Interface can't provide the implementation of abstract class. The abstract keyword is used to declare abstract class. The interface keyword is used to declare interface. An abstract class can extend another Java class and implement multiple Java interfaces. An interface can extend another Java interface only. An abstract class can be extended using keyword extends. An interface can be implemented using keyword implements. A Java abstract class can have class members like private, protected, etc. Members of a Java interface are public by default.
Okay. Now, okay, so let's try it. So one of the features of the abstract class is that it uses the keyword abstract. Interface use the keyword interface. For abstract class, you can extend it, and you can also implement an interface using abstract class. But for interface, you can only extend it, you can't implement it. Then you can extend an abstract class using extend word, and you can implement an interface using implement keyword. And what else was there? Do you remember another point?
An abstract class can implement interfaces, but an interface cannot extend an abstract class.
An abstract class can implement an interface, but an interface cannot extend an abstract class. Correct. An abstract class has what, private and protected methods, and an interface has default methods, right? Uh, and then we can give an example
Public, I
also.
think, public by default.
Okay, let's see. Members of Java interface are public by default, right? Abstract class have class members like private protected and class members. So class members means class methods, right? So members means methods of a Java class are public by default. Okay. Okay. So what he's trying to say is that abstract class have methods like private and protected, and methods of Java interface are public by default. Fine. Okay. We forgot this important one. Abstract class doesn't support multiple inheritance, and interface supports multiple inheritance. Abstract class can have final, non-final, static, and non-static variables. Final, non-static, static, non-static variables. What? Non-final, okay. And this has only static and final variables. Okay. Right. Let's go over this one more time because it's a bit confusing. Do you remember any other point that you haven't already given? You haven't given. I might have.
Uh, Abstract class,
Yeah. So, for example, multiple inheritance. Give me the point with multiple inheritance.
abstract class does not support multiple inheritance, and interface supports multiple inheritance.
Yes. And what type of member functions or methods are there in the abstract class versus interface? What was that point for that?
Abstract class can have members that are private, protected,
Right.
and interface. The members of an interface are public by default.
Right. And abstract class have uh, final, non-final, static, and non-static variables, and interface have static and private, if I'm not wrong. No, static and final variables. Okay. So this have final, non-final, static, and non-static, and this is only static and final variables. Abstract class provide implementation of interface. They can provide implementation of interface. Abstract keyword is used to declare an abstract class. Interface keyword is used to declare an interface. An abstract class can extend another Java class and implement multiple Java interfaces. Interface can only extend another interface. An abstract class can be extended using extends, and this can be implemented using implements. Okay. हमें चाय बन गई है क्या? दीजिए. Okay. So moving on. So multi-threading. So maybe I'll take 5 minutes break. Just need to have tea and samosa, and then I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Anirudh.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi. I'm just taking a 5 minutes break just to have tea, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Okay. यहाँ पे अनिरुद्ध, यू आर फ्रॉम पुणे वाले ना?
Yeah, Imran.
या अभी यहाँ पे उंदरी में एक काका हलवाई खुला है, जबरदस्त समोसा बनाया उसने.
सही है.
Where do
Famous,
you
I
stay?
think Rakalwai is famous.
Yeah. Where do you stay?
I stay near Roda.
Yeah, we spoke about it
Yes, yes,
at IT Park.
yes.
Cool, let's continue. You had a chance to look at some of the slides that I shared with you.
Yeah, I had a look at the slides, but I couldn't add the graph algorithms today. Maybe I can do it tomorrow.
You are comfortable with those topics, right? Okay, if you want to switch to a different topic also.
Uh, I think I'll need some time to study it, but I should be fine. It will be a revision for me as well. So
Yeah, great, awesome. I've given you the tough ones because I
yeah,
feel
I
confident
think
that you can do it. So that's why I purposely gave you the tough ones.
no problem.
Thanks. So we'll continue with the Java. Now we talk about multi-threading. Multi-threading is Java feature that allows concurrent execution of two or more parts of the program for maximum utilization of CPU. Each part of the program is called thread. Thread is a lightweight process within a process. Multi-threading system in Java is built upon thread class, its method, and its companion interface runnable. To create a new thread, your program will either have to extend the thread class or implement the runnable interface. Thread class defines methods, toast, several methods that help in managing the thread. A thread has three components. One is CPU. Sumaya, you have added this. This was already there, but did you add this?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And we only have this diagram, no? We don't have any others.
Yes.
The thread class is designed to encapsulate the virtual CPU in it. When a thread is constructed, the code and data that define the thread specified by the object are passed to the constructor of the thread class. Then data may or may not be shared by multiple threads. Then code, which is shared by multiple threads independent of the data. A thread can be various state, new, ready, running, block, and dead. So currently this is an example of the life cycle of a thread. Starts, then it goes in a ready state, then it goes in running. In case if it waits for any resource, like input output resource goes in a waiting or suspended or block state. Once that is released, one gets the resource, then goes back to the ready and follows the cycle until it finishes and it's dead. Okay. Anirudh, can you read this?
Yeah, sure. So multi-threading is a Java feature that allows concurrent execution of two or more parts of a program for maximum CPU utilization.
Okay, the pronunciation of this word is concurrent. That's what we checked on Google a couple of days ago. Even I was thinking it's concurrent.
Yeah, concurrent.
Yeah.
Each part of subprogram is called a thread. So threads are lightweight processes within a process. Multi-threading system in Java is built upon the thread class, it, its methods, and its companion interface runnable. To create a new thread, your program will either extend the thread class or implement the runnable interface. So I think these are the two ways of creating a thread,
Correct.
creating threads in Java. And I
Right.
think on Geeks for Geeks, there are example for both these. Like
Yeah.
why?
So we will be discussing example also because there is a question in the examination
Mm-hmm.
about
Okay.
please write the program to create a thread.
Okay. Okay. Great. The thread class defines several methods that help in managing threads.
Awesome. Sumaya, I read it in a way that you can remember some of the points because we'll be recapping.
Okay. Multi-threading is a Java feature that allows concurrent execution of two or more parts of a program for maximum utilization of CPU.
Okay. So concurrent execution of two or more programs. So it's a feature in Java that allows concurrent execution of multiple programs. And why we do this is so that the CPU can be utilized at a maximum level, and that's the main concern, that CPU utilization should be maximum, shouldn't get wasted.
Each part of such program is called a thread. So threads are lightweight processes within a process. The multi-threading system in Java is built upon the thread class, its methods, and its companion interface runnable. To create a new thread, your program will either extend thread class or implement the runnable interface. The thread class defines several methods that help in managing threads.
Okay, so let's recap. So multi-threading is a process that allows concurrent execution of two or more programs. And the reason we do this is so that we can have maximum utilization of CPU. Now, so Maya, which class does a thread use?
The thread class.
Thread class.
Threads can be implemented using the thread class or by implementing the runnable interface.
By extending the thread class and implementing the runnable interface.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Um, was there one more point, Anirudh, in this second point? What was that? Yeah,
Yes.
it talks something about what is a thread.
Yeah, so thread is a lightweight process within a process. I think that's what it says.
Yes, yes. So each program has a thread, and thread is a lightweight process. Threads are lightweight processes in a program, within a process, not in a program, but within a process. So each part of such program is called a thread, and threads are lightweight processes within a process. The multi-threading system is built upon thread class. The whole system of multi-threading is built upon thread class and its methods and its companion interface runnable class. So it's not just built on thread class, it's also built on this interface. So there are two things it's built on. The statement looks like they are separate, but they're actually part of it. So there are two things it's built on, thread class and runnable interface. And to create a thread, you'll have to either extend a class or implement the interface. Define several methods that help in managing threads, which we will look at in a moment. Now this has three components. It was CPU, data, and code. Uh, what's written for CPU is a little complex, so let me just break it down. A thread class is designed to encapsulate virtual CPU. Okay, when a thread is constructed, the code and data, when a thread is constructed, code and data that define thread specified by the object, code and data code and data that define thread specified by the object are passed to the constructor. Data may or may not be shared and independent of data. A thread can be in various states: new, ready, running, block, and dead. This is easy. We can explain the last part very easily. So, Anirudh, we are spending more time on one slides until we are feel confident, and then you will
Mhm.
realize that as the day passes by, when we're recapping, you don't really have to spend that much time because we will be able to recall them easily.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, CPU thread class is designed to encapsulate virtual CPU in it. When thread is constructed, code and data are passed to the constructor of the thread class. Data may or may not be shared by multiple threads, but code is definitely shared and it's independent of data. A thread can be a various state: new, ready, running, block, and dead. Okay, so let's read this, starting with Anirudh.
Yeah, so there are three components. A thread in Java has three components. One is CPU.
Mhm.
The thread class is designed to encapsulate the virtual CPU in it. When a
Mhm.
thread is constructed, the code and data that define the thread specified by the object are passed to the constructor of the thread class. The second
Okay.
part is data. Data may or may not be shared by multiple threads. Third part is code. Code is definitely shared by multiple threads independent of the data.
Okay.
A thread can be in various states: new, ready, running, blocked, or dead.
Correct. So CPU thread class is designed to encapsulate virtual CPU. So it encapsulates the virtual CPU. When a thread is constructed, both code and data that is defined that defines the thread are passed to the constructor of that class. Whenever you're going to talk about class in when we are talking about multi-threading, we'll always talk about the thread class, and when we talk about interface, we'll always talk about runnable interface. Then data, it may or may not be shared, and code definitely shared and it's independent of the data. And of course, these are in the states. So Maya, let's read this. What are the three components?
The three components are a data, code, and
CPU.
CPU.
Okay.
CPU, the thread class, is designed to encapsulate the virtual CPU unit. When a thread is constructed, the code and data that define the thread specified by the object are passed to the constructor of the thread class.
Mm-hmm.
Data may or may not be shared by multiple threads.
Okay.
Code is shared by multiple threads independent of data. A thread can be in various states: new, ready, running, blocked, and dead.
Okay, so just one final recap. So CPU is designed to encapsulate thread class is designed to encapsulate virtual CPU. When a thread is created, both code and data that defines that thread are passed to the constructor of that class. Data may or may not be shared by multiple threads. Code is definitely shared and is independent of the data. And the a thread is can be in various state: new, ready, blocked, running, and dead. Okay, so Anirudh, what are the three components of a Java thread model?
So it's CPU, data, and code.
Okay,
So thread
tell me
is
something about code.
code is shared independent of the data. Data may or may not be shared between multiple threads. And
Okay.
CPU thread is designed to encapsulate the virtual CPU.
Mm-hmm.
And what
That's it.
else?
Let's stop. Let me ask
Yeah.
Sumaya also something. So Sumaya, we spoke about that in CPU is used, a thread class is used to encapsulate the virtual CPU. Now tell me that, uh, what's the next point after that?
Um, when a new thread is created,
Yeah,
the, the data and the code are passed to the constructor of the thread class.
perfect, perfect. Okay, and what are different states of the thread?
A new, ready, running, blocked, and dead.
Okay. Okay. Java thread model, thread states, thread life cycle. So yeah, this is just talking about this different states basically. Let's just move on from this. How threads are created. This is what you were talking about, Anirudh. Now we'll talk about that. So there are two ways. One is extending the thread class, and second is by implementing the runnable interface. These are two ways to create a thread. So let's take a look at an example. So here, uh, Sumya, you did another example, right? With what was the question in the exam? You have to show both ways.
You have to set the priority of the thread that was in the question. I think that is
And
on the next slide.
next slide. Okay, no problem. So let's at least look at this. So basically, we create a class called multi-threading demo. You can name it whatever you want. And as we have established that a thread can be created using a thread class. So that's why we're extending, in this method, we are extending the thread class. A thread class has a function called run. What we want to do is, you know that in child class you can override a method. So we are overriding this run method so we can make it do what we want to do. So in this method, we want to try it. So here we print thread and thread dot current thread dot get ID. So current thread is again a method of a thread class, and get ID is going to get us the ID of that particular thread. So this will print thread, whatever the ID of that thread is, and then is running. In case if it fails, we will catch the exception. Then finally, we go inside of another class called multi-thread, and inside of our main function, we basically create 8 threads. Number of threads is 8. Loop through it. We instantiate this class that we have, which is a child class of a thread class, 8 times. And each time we call the start method. So when you call the start method, it's going to automatically invoke the run method, and run method is going to print what thread number it is with this text. So that's what's happening here. Just an explanation of what we discussed. Anirudh, can you read this?
Yeah. We create a class that extends the java.lang.thread class. This class overrides the run method available in the thread class. A thread begins its life inside the run method. We create an object of our new class and call the start method to start the execution of the thread. Start method invokes the run method on the thread object, basically, yeah, as you mentioned.
Okay. Move on. Now this is going to be thread creation by implementing the runnable interface. So there's a question in the paper which says you have to also set the priority of the created thread to 8. In the last example, so ignore this example right here. It's another way of doing it. Uh, in the previous example, we created 8 thread, but this time we're going to only create 1 thread. I think so maybe we can get rid of this. There's no point having 2 different examples. Let's just have one. Okay, so here we create a class called myThread. Of course, we import the thread from java.lang package. And inside of this, we do the same thing as we did earlier, which was override the function called run. And but this time we're implementing the runnable interface. We're not really extending the thread class. And here we are printing out thread.currentThread.getName. I mean, we could use get ID also, but here just doing a little different, using get name of the thread, and plus running. And then here we are getting the priority of the thread. Reason for that is because when we set the priority at the bottom, we should be able to see whether that priority that we had set is showing correctly or not. So thread dot current thread dot get priority. Now, in another class inside of our main function, we instantiate the thread class, but this time it accepts another parameter. So it accepts actually 2 parameters. One is the extended implemented interface instantiation, which is this, and second is the name. I guess this is the name of the thread, Sumaya.
Yes.
Okay, so the name of the thread is child thread, and I guess this will give us the name. The get name will give us the name what we're passing here. And the new thread dot set priority. So the thread class has a function called set priority, and you can pass the priority there. Ignore this text here. This is coming by VS Code as a hinting. So ignore this part. Just passing the number 8 here. Same thing we do again using this class. We call the start method, which invokes the run method and calls this. So you can see priority is 8, child running is this. So I guess we should do this at least in the code and see how that is working before we move on to the next one. So so I'm doing it for the first time, so you guys have to help me if I get stuck. first thing we do is import java.lang.thread and then class example, or yeah, let's do example, implements. Okay, it implements the runnable interface, and inside of this we have to override the run class, sorry, run method. Is it static method? Let me see. No, it's public.
No.
Public void. Yeah, because if it was static method, then we didn't have to instantiate the class. Run. Does it accept any parameters?
No.
Okay, then we have to print, right? System dot out dot println, and then we're gonna say thread dot was it current thread dot get name
Yeah.
is running is, and then another one which will be getting us a priority. So this be thread dot current thread dot get priority, I guess. Get priority, and your priority is, then another class. Actually, this should be my demo. My thread demo. And finally, class example. And inside of this, public static void main string args. Anirudh, how good are you with Java?
Average, I think, above average.
Why do we pass these args? What's the use of that? Do you know?
Not 100% sure right now.
Maybe when we implement like when we instantiate this class, maybe at that time, if we want to pass any arguments that can be reused in the entire class, that's probably the reason why. So by default, it accepts args. It's okay if you want to pass, you don't want to pass. I think that must be the reason.
Aren't those command line arguments?
Sorry.
Command line arguments, those args. So if you are running using the command line, then you
Yeah.
can pass arguments after the run command, and those will go into args.
You mean when I'm instantiating this particular class using command line interface, I can pass the arguments?
And not when you're instantiating the class, when you're running the main method.
Okay. Using command line.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what was next? Next, we need to say thread, something my thread equals the new thread, and it will take new of the my thread demo in extended interface. Since it started saying one usage. Yes. And then the next parameter is the name of the thread, which is child thread. You can name it whatever you want. And then finally, you need to call my thread dot start. Did I make any mistake, or this looks good?
You have to set the priority, I think. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, you're right. You're right. You need to set the priority. So my thread dot set priority to 8. Let's run it. Java. What do we have here? Why is it? Okay, two classes inside of this. Okay, got it. Let's run it. Okay, good. That's working. That's excellent. Okay, we will practice all of the programs one day before. Like we'll spend more time in practicing the programs than the theory one day before the exam, because then you'll be able to remember it more. Cool. Moving on. Thread synchronization in Java. I'm pretty sure, 200% confident thread will come in the exam. It's an important topic. Okay, if you want two threads to communicate and share a complicated data structure, such as linked list or graph, we already studied what they were, and you need some way to ensure they don't conflict with each other. So I think they have monitors and a locking mechanism, I guess, in thread. In other words, you must prevent one thread from writing the data on another thread while writing the data is sorry in you must prevent one thread from writing data while another thread is in the middle of reading it. Simplify this. You must prevent one thread from writing the data while another one thread is reading it. It's more simpler. When statement gets more complex, it's hard to grasp. Okay, so there's a need to synchronize the action of multiple threads and make sure that only one thread can access one resource at a given point of time. This is implemented with the concept called monitors. Each object in Java is associated with the monitor, which a thread can lock or unlock. Only one thread at a time may hold a lock on the monitor. Synchronization provides a simple monitor facility that can be used to provide mutual exclusion between Java threads. Synchronization support is built in the Java language. I think most of the programming languages, when they have situations like this where there is a clash, there's a conflict, two things are working on the same thing, they kind of use the locking mechanism. When we were studying the database management system, there was locking when there were multiple transactions happening on the same data item. It's the same concept. So let's break it down. If two threads communicate, need some way to some way that they don't conflict. So key thing to remember from this. Okay, in other words,
I think
must prevent.
communicate and share, you can highlight that also.
Okay. Must prevent one thread from writing the data while another thread is reading it. From writing while another is reading. There's need to synchronize the action of multiple threads. Only one thread can access one resource. Monitors, we already highlighted that. Each Java object associated with a monitor, which is called thread unlock. Each object associated with monitor. One thread at a time may hold a lock. Only one thread at a time may hold a lock. one thread okay. Synchronization provides a simple monitor facility, right? Use provide mutual exclusion. Okay, that's it. Okay, so Maya, can you read this?
Thread synchronization in Java. If you want two threads to communicate and share a complicated data structure such as a linked list or graph, you need some way to ensure that they don't conflict with each other. In other words, you must prevent one thread from writing data while another thread is reading it.
Yeah.
So there is a need to synchronize the action of multiple threads and make sure that only one thread can access one resource at a given point in time. This is implemented using a concept called monitors. Each object in Java is associated with a monitor, which a thread can lock or unlock. Only one thread at a time may hold a lock on a monitor. Synchronization provides a simple monitor facility that can be used to provide mutual exclusion between Java threads. Synchronization support is built into the Java language.
Okay, so key things to remember: two threads wants to communicate and share. We want some way that they don't conflict with each other. Basically, we want to prevent one thread from writing while another one is reading it, and we also need to synchronize their action so that only one thread can access one resource at a time. And this concept of synchronization so that multiple threads don't get the same resource at a time is called monitors. And in Java, each object associates itself with a monitor, which a thread can lock or unlock. But only one thread at a time can hold a monitor. Uh, this synchronization that we're talking about, which is synchronizing action of multiple threads, it provides a simple monitor facility, and this facility can be used to provide mutual exclusion between Java threads. This is also built in Java. Okay, Anirudh, you want to read?
Yeah, if you want two threads to communicate and share a complicated data structure such as linked list or graph, you need some way to ensure that they don't conflict with each other.
Yeah,
Meaning, basically, when one thread is writing the data, another one shouldn't read the data. So, in
yeah,
other words, you must prevent one thread from writing data while another thread is reading it.
right.
So, there is a need to synchronize the action of multiple threads and make sure only one thread can access one resource at a given point of time.
Yeah,
This is implemented using the concept called monitors.
yes.
Each object in Java is associated with a monitor, which a thread can lock or unlock. Only one thread at a time may hold a lock on a monitor. Synchronization provides a simple monitor facility that can be used to provide mutual exclusion between Java threads. Synchronization support is built in to the Java language.
Okay. So two threads wants to communicate each other. We need a way so that they don't conflict with each other. If they want to communicate, if they want to share some data. So, Anirudh, there is a process that starts with S that we use to ensure this happens. What is that process called?
Synchronization.
Okay, can you elaborate more on what synchronization is?
So, synchronization is a process which ensures that two threads don't conflict with each other and
Correct.
it's implemented using the concept of monitors.
Yes.
And monitor each Java object is associated with a lock. Uh,
Each Java object
it is
associates itself with a monitor,
with the
which it can
monitor.
hold a lock or unlock,
Yeah.
which it can lock or unlock.
Mhm.
Okay. So Maya, tell me about more about this locking or unlocking.
Uh, Only one a thread can hold a lock on a monitor at a time, so there is
Correct.
mutual exclusion between the threads.
Okay. Tell me, the feature of synchronization is not built in Java. Is this true or false?
It's false.
Okay. Right. And how does this synchronize? So synchronization helps in a process. And what is that process called? Starts with M.
Mutual exclusion.
Correct. So synchronization allows us to achieve mutual exclusion, and you already know mutual exclusion means that uh, one resource should be held by only one particular, whoever is requesting that at a time. Should not be held by multiple threads. So that's basically what a thread synchronization is. So we'll do one more recap and then we'll move on. If you want two threads to communicate and share a complicated data structure such as linked list or graph, we need some way so that they don't conflict with each other. In other words, prevent one thread from writing the data on another thread while another one is reading it. So there's a need to synchronize the action of multiple threads so that only one thread can access one resource at a time. This is implemented using concept called monitors. Each object in Java associates itself with a monitor, which a thread can lock or unlock. Only one thread at a time may hold a lock on a monitor. Synchronization provides a simple monitor facilities that can be used to provide mutual exclusion between Java threads. And this support is built in Java language. I hope you guys are clear, right? Now it's in your head.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just 3 points to remember in this is the fact that we want only one thread to hold a lock on one thing, not multiple one, and we do this so that they don't conflict with each other. They don't end up writing while another one's reading it. Second thing, we talk about monitors, and third is synchronization, which helps in mutual exclusion. So I think these are three key points of this synchronization. Okay, moving on. Number class and its use. So number class is an abstract class which is placed in java.lang package. It has four abstract methods: int value, long value, double value, float value, and two concrete methods: bytes and short value. Use of number class. There are certain constants defined in number class such as min value and max value, and they both provide the upper bound and the lower bound of the data type, which are very useful. Use cases could be when we are trying to compare. Remember, I think was it yesterday or day before when we were talking about finding the largest number, and we know that when we have some constant available, we can use those constant to compare the first value, because if you want to compare the values between two elements in the array, how so if you have a constant, it just makes it easier to compare the first item. You compare the first item with that min value, and then if you find it, you hold it in a variable, and then whatever that value is, you compare it with the next item. So these constants are really useful. Then number class object can be used as an argument of a method that expects an object, often used with manipulating collection of numbers. There are certain functions which require the number class object to be used as an arguments for manipulating with the collection of numbers. Class methods can be used to convert values to and from other primitive types, for converting to and from strings, and for converting between number system. Like if you want to convert, let's say zero, which is in quotes, wrapped inside of quotes. You want to convert it into actual number, you can use the number method. Okay, like somebody else to read. So yeah, Anirudh.
Yeah. So number class and its use. Number class is an abstract class which is placed in java.lang package.
Yeah.
It has four abstract methods: int value, long value, double value, and float value,
Mhm.
and two concrete methods, which is byte value and short value.
Okay.
Use of number class. So number class, constants defined by number class such as min value and max value that provide the upper and lower bounds of the data type are very much useful. So we already saw an example of integer dot min value and integer dot max value are
Correct.
useful to find a minimum or maximum in an array,
Yes.
for example. Number class object can be used as an argument of a method that expects an object, often used when manipulating collection of numbers.
I don't know if you can add an example here, that'll be great. I'll sign it to you.
Uh, yeah, this point I'm not 100% sure about, but I think what it means is just where we are when we pass like int in a argument, like let's say we have to calculate the maximum of two integers,
Mhm.
but we don't know the data type can be int or long. I think in that case we can use the abstract class number, because I think the long, int, and double and float are the kind of a child classes of the number class.
Okay, let's see if we can find that. So we'll have to look for the example. It'll take some time, so I'll leave this for now. If you find something, you can add it. Otherwise, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
The last point is class methods can be used for converting values to and from other primitive types, for converting to and from strings, and for converting between number systems like decimal, octal, hexadecimal, binary. So one example could be when we want to convert an integer to string.
Yeah.
So we can just use dot to string method, and
Right.
if we want to convert from string to integer, we can use integer dot parseInt or number method, I think.
Okay. So it has four abstract methods, two concrete methods. Cool. Sumaya, let's read this.
A number class is an abstract class which is placed in java.lang package.
Okay.
It has four abstract methods: int value, long value, double value, float value, and two concrete methods: byte value and short value.
Okay.
Use of number class. Constants defined by the number class such as min value and max value that provide the upper and lower bounds of the data type are very much useful. A number class object can be used as an argument of a method that expects an object, often used when manipulating collections of numbers. Class methods can be used for converting values to and from other primitive types, for converting to and from strings, and for converting between number systems, decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary.
Right. So last recap, number class is an abstract class which is placed in java.lang. It has four abstract methods which are int value, long value, double value, and float value, and two concrete methods which are byte and short value. Use of number class, which is constant defined in the number class, which is min value and max value, which have the upper and the lower bound, are very much useful. And the number class object can be used as a parameter in functions that expects an object. Use case would be where often used for manipulating a collection of numbers. Class methods can be used for converting values to and from the primitive types, and also for converting from string to a number and to and from, and also for converting number systems such as decimal, octal, hexabinary, and binary. Okay. So Maya, what is a number class?
It's an abstract class in the java.lang package.
Okay. Uh, Anirudh, tell me give me one use case of number class.
So one use case of number class can be the constants defined by number class like min value and max value,
Mhm.
which are useful in various programs.
Right. So the constants defined in a number class, which are min value and min and max value, which have upper and lower bound, are pretty useful. Correct.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the second benefit would be that the number object can be passed into some of the methods that expects an object, which is pretty useful for use case would be like for manipulating collection of numbers. So may I give me the last point on the use case of number system, number class?
It has methods to convert to and from different primitive data types, to convert to and from strings.
Hmm. And there's one more. The last one is
You convert between different number systems like
number
hexal,
system.
Yeah,
decimal, or octal.
Correct. Now, it has two methods. Number class has two methods. One is concrete and second is abstract. I'm trying to confuse you by changing the order. So tell me which are the concrete methods, Sumaya.
byte value and short value.
Okay. And the abstract methods are int value, double float,
And
uh,
long.
long. Yes, yes. Does anyone remember how many bits or bytes each of these guys has? So byte has one bit, right?
Byte is
Byte
one
is
byte.
one byte basically.
One byte. Which one of this has one bit? Is it short?
Boolean.
Boolean is one byte.
One bit. Okay, so int has four. Sorry, int
Yeah,
has
it
two,
has.
and long has four, and double has eight. Correct? You remember or not? Or not?
Yeah, int is 4, long is 8, short
Correct.
is
Right?
2.
Double is what?
Double is I think 8.
Data types. Okay, Boolean is one bit, char is two byte, byte is one byte, short is two, int is four, of course, long is eight, double is eight. Okay, long and double are eight only. That's good. Float is four. So we'll go back to the screen now and we'll try to recall it. So int is four, long is
8.
eight, double is eight, float is
Yeah,
four,
yeah.
byte is one byte, short is two byte,
Short is
not
2
wrong.
bytes.
Yeah, and boolean is one bit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall this is because we have to write this answer in when we are asked, give us what are data types in Java. So that's where we have to use this information.
I think one
I,
trick which can be used here is like, especially for int and long, like int is a data type in Java which holds like minus 2 raised to power 32 to plus 2 raised to power 32, so which is a smaller
yes.
data type, and long is the bigger one. So int will
Yeah.
be 4 and long is 8. Similarly with between float and double, so float is the smaller one, so float is 4 and double is 8.
Should have just written it that way. Make it easier. Just put it that way is confusing. It's fine. The name kind of depicts it. Okay. Uh, so there is more, but what we'll do is we'll kind of breeze through what we have studied so far, not today, but before that in Java. And the reason for that is because if we don't revise them on a daily basis, their memory will get weaker in our head. And we hardly got what, just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just 3 more days, right? Fridays are exam. Which subject is on Friday? Do you guys remember?
Data structures and algorithms.
Ah, okay. So we get 1 more day for this one. Okay, no problem. But yeah, I guess on Thursday, I don't think we'll be doing Java. We'll mainly be focusing on doing these. So that means we still have just 3 days for Java. So let's just quickly recap and then we'll move on to the DSA. Okay, so I'm going to just take you to the recap rather than asking you guys just quickly. So object and a class. So object is basically a blueprint of, object is basically an instance of a class. And this contains the methods and properties. Okay, a class is a template or a blueprint with which you can create multiple objects, which contains the methods, which are also called the data members. Yeah, data members. And member functions or member functions. And the variables are also called member data and instance variables or instance variables. Moving on. Okay, how is an object created? Object can be created in 2 steps. First is the declaration, and second is the instantiation. In declaration step, we go ahead and create a variable, which is basically declare a variable, which is by giving the name of the class and the name of the variable after then semicolon. At this point, only the object reference is created, memory is not allocated. Then in the step 2, we instantiate the class student and assign it to the variable that we had created on top. And at this point, the memory is allocated. We can also combine the 2 steps into one, like so, which is done in most cases. Okay, moving on. Data hiding. So data hiding means hiding the non-essential information from the user and only showing the essential information. For example, the user doesn't have to care about what is happening inside of the body of the function. All he cares about, if he passes a parameter, it expects to do something or return something from that function. So it enables developers to protect their data and hide the implementation details from outside reference. So protect the data and hide the implementation details. And um, if you want to protect a variable or a method, you can also declare them private. If you declare a variable as private, it cannot be accessed from outside of the class unless you use getters and setters. Okay, so getters and setters, private variables can only be accessed within the same class. However, it's possible to access them if we provide a public get and set methods inside that class. Get method returns the variable value, set method sets the value. Then we can use the methods get name and set name to access the value of the private variable. So this is an example of a program. There's a class called person. There's a private variable called name. If you try to access it, like try to get using dot name and try to assign its value, you'll get an error. But if you declare, if you create these methods, which is get name and set name, which are getters and setters, and then try to call it using get name and try to set the value using set name, then you'll be able to do it. Abstract classes are those classes which have an abstract keyword. These abstract classes methods must be implemented. So in case if a particular class extends this abstract class, all of its methods must be implemented into the extended class.
Only the abstract methods, I think, must be implemented. So abstract class can have abstract and non-abstract, both kind of methods, I think.
Okay. Okay, awesome. A method which is declared abstract and does not have implementation in the abstract class, known as abstract method. It can have abstract and non-abstract methods. Needs to be extended. Its methods implemented by class extending it. I have to specify here. It needs to be extended and its abstract method implemented in the class by the class extending it.
Abstract method should be implemented or must be implemented, I think. Abstract methods must be implemented.
It cannot be instantiated. It can have constructors and static methods also. So it can have methods other than the abstract, like static methods as well. It can have final method, which will force the subclass not to change the body of the method. Okay, advantages of using abstract class. I think it provides data abstraction and what else? Way of organizing the program. Grouping class is important in keeping the program organized. Group several related classes together as siblings, and flexibility to have certain concrete methods and some other methods that derived classes should implement. तो लग रहा है F को लकवा मार गया है, इसको ठीक करना पड़ेगा.
I think the last point, some other abstract methods, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but like some methods are concrete methods and some are abstract methods. So some other abstract methods.
Talking about this point.
Yeah. After
Abstract
the
class.
end part.
Okay, one second. Abstract classes provide you flexibility to have certain concrete method and some other methods. So what are you saying?
Some other abstract methods. Or
That
some
the
abstract methods is fine.
Yeah, you're right.
So basically, both kind of methods can be there in abstract class, abstract or just concrete.
Because we're using should, then that's fine. Okay, so basically they are a way of organizing program. Grouping classes is important in keeping the program organized, and grouping several related classes together as siblings, and flexibility to have certain concrete methods and some abstract methods. So an example, so here we are implementing this run method, and then we're instantiating and calling it. Okay. So polymorphism, poly means many, morphism forms. Yeah, poly means many, morphs means forms. An object can have many forms. Polymorphism can be implemented using overriding and overloading. And some of the advantages, let's see what they were. It tends to reduce pairing of multiple functionalities. And I think it helps us reuse the code that was also there. Yeah, it helps programmers to reuse the code because you can write the class once, test it, implement it, and reuse as required. Supports single variable name for multiple data types in overloading. So reduce pairing of multiple functionalities helps programmers to reuse the code, like write it once, test it, and then implement it to be reused. And a single variable name can be used for multiple data types in case of overloading, where our same function is called multiple times uh, by passing, with a different signature, passing different parameters of different data types. Types of polymorphism: static and dynamic. Static polymorphism, it's the linking of the function with an object during compile time. It's achieved through overloading. And dynamic polymorphism, here the JVM, what does the JVM do? JVM performs the process at runtime. Okay. JVM performs the process at runtime. In this, compiler doesn't determine the method to be executed. It's achieved through the method overriding. So static polymorphism is the linking of a function with an object during compile time. And dynamic polymorphism, the compiler doesn't determine the method to be executed, and JVM performs the process at the runtime. This is an example of overloading. This is an example of overriding. We use super keyword in Java in case, for example, both child and parent classes have the same method name, and using super means that it's going to call the parent method instead of the child. Otherwise, the compiler may get confused if you don't use super as to which method to call, whether to call the child method or the parent method. Okay, I wish they were in the or like together. Use of static method in Java. So any method that's declared as static is a static method. You can call a static method from outside the class without having to instantiate the class, and they exist. Is used to construct method that will exist regardless of whether or not an instance of the classes are generated. Any method, okay. Static method have access to the class variables without using the class's object. So yeah, so this method will have an access to the static variables without using the class's object. So you can directly call this function and it'll be able to access the variable, static variable. And why method in Java is always static? Because at the time when the main function is called, the class is not instantiated, and we know that static methods allow us to access a method without instantiation of the class. Okay, static keyword, which we can use in the main method to define it as static. There's no object of the class available at the time of starting Java runtime. And because of that, we have to define main as static. By doing that, JVM can load the class into the main memory and call the main method. Okay. Write a Java program which takes 3 numbers and displays the largest among these. So we saw an example of the min value. Import scanner, instantiate, hold this integer.min into max, loop it through, and every time you take an input from the user using extint, also check if the input is greater than the max value. If it is, the max will be equal to input, otherwise max will stay the same. And then finally we print the max and close it. Okay, data types in Java: primitive and non-primitive. Primitive includes the Boolean, int, long, float, double. Am I forgetting any primitive data type?
No, I think
Okay, good.
arrays
Then
and strings are non-primitive, I think.
yeah, that's non-primitive. So in arrays we have, sorry, in non-primitive we have arrays, we have interfaces, and what else? There's one more, right?
Classes, strings.
Classes. Yes, yes. Yeah, I forgot that char.
Hmm.
Let's try to recall if you remember this. So Boolean is 1 bit, char I think is 4 byte. Byte is 1 byte. Short is 4. Short is 4 or short is 2?
Short is 2 byte.
2 byte. Okay. Int is 4. Long is 8. Float is 4 and double is 8. Let's verify that. Boolean 1, char 2, byte 1, short 2, int 4, long 8, float 4, double. Good. Most of these guys are 0, except oops, except Boolean. And this is char is like backslash u 4 times 0. And when we're dealing with long, float, and double, we have to use L, F, and D at the end. Non-primitive, like somebody to read. Anirudh?
Yeah. So class is a template or blueprint from which objects are created. It has properties and methods. Interface in Java is a blueprint of a class. It has static constants and abstract methods. It is used to achieve abstraction. By interface, we can support the functionality of multiple inheritance. Yeah. It can be used to achieve loose coupling. Classes are independent of each other. The only knowledge one class has about the other class is what the other class has exposed through its interface.
That's the meaning of loose coupling.
So basically, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if we are using the interface, then only the methods which are exposed in the interface, the public methods, that can be used by other class which is using this interface. So that provides kind of a loose coupling. And the other class which implements this interface and it provides the definition of the definition of these methods. So the class which is implementing the interface, it doesn't need to know the definition. It only needs to know the declaration which is provided
Yeah.
by the interface.
You mean the implementation? Doesn't need to know the
Implementation is not needed. Yeah, only
body.
the declaration is needed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Non-primitive data types. Array is an object in which which contains elements of similar data type. Additionally, the elements of an array are sorted in contiguous memory location.
You know, in Java, everything is an object, right?
Yeah, we can store only the fixed size of elements in an array. It doesn't grow its size at runtime.
Unless you
So
use dynamic arrays.
yeah, so usually when we initiate or declare and instantiate an array, we provide a size also. Like in this example, its size is 5. It
Right.
usually doesn't or cannot change.
Correct. So Maya, if I try to assign a value here, a fifth element, sorry, sixth element using the index 5 equals something something, what exception error I'm going to get? What's that class name?
Array index out of bounds exception.
Array index out of bounds, right? Yeah. And if I put it correctly but use 50 by 0, then
Arithmetic exception.
correct. Keep on.
Single dimensional array list of variables of similar or same data type. Like in
Mhm.
this example, my num, all are integers. We can access values using index. Like cars of 0 will be the value at 0th index, which is Volvo, and cars of 1 will be the value at first index, which is BMW.
Right. Uh, okay, Anirudh, are you giving exam this time?
Yes,
What is your exam date? Next exam date?
same this Friday and Saturday
And which are subjects?
for data structures in Java, and I'm giving for C and Python also. which is 1 day.
Okay, so you are actually giving exam for both semesters together.
Yeah, I'm like doing like 4 or 5. So I'm doing some exams right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Did you have an exam today?
No, no.
Okay.
So I'm giving DSA, Java, and C and Python.
Okay, awesome. And I can expect you every day on the call, right? Does this time work for you, the one we have?
Yeah, after 6 I can definitely join. Before 6 there can be office work sometimes.
That's fine. We'll probably have to kind of extend these classes more than 2 hours with a break of half an hour. Why? Because we hardly have any time left. You know, we just have 3 days, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking like starting at 5, and whoever can wants to join at 6 o'clock, let them join.
Hmm.
Because this is the most effective way of learning. Why? Because there is no wastage of time. If we're studying
True.
ourselves, we always get distracted.
True.
Even sometimes my mother comes and says this, that. I said, I'm in a class. But imagine if I was studying on my own, wouldn't I listen to her?
Yeah, that's true. And I think it also provides you a sense of what are the topics to cover. Basically, that can
Correct.
be too extensive as well sometimes.
Topics plus when you forget something, when you're corrected by someone, high chances
Yeah.
you'll remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So
I think we
from
already discussed this, so we'll leave that. Yeah, just an example. Okay, moving on. Finish it fast. So, yeah. So let me recap this. So exceptions are unwanted events uh, that occurs when the program, something goes wrong in a program, and by default, if you don't handle the exception, the program is going to halt. It's not going to continue further. And if you handle the exception, like using a try and catch method, then even if there is something goes wrong, then in that case the program will still continue to run. And its causes could be, let's say there's a code error, you're trying to access a file that doesn't exist, there is some runtime error, then what else could be there? So Matt, do you remember anything else in the causes?
No.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so exception is unwanted and unexpected event which occurs during the execution of the program at runtime that disrupts the normal flow of the program's instructions. When an exception occurs within a method, it creates an object. This object is called exception object, and it contains information about exceptions such as name, description of the exception, and state of the program when exception occurred. Causes: invalid user input, device failure, loss of network connection, physical limitation, out of disk memory, code errors, opening an unavailable file, JVM has run out of memory. So user has put some wrong information, wrong input, your device fails, internet chala gaya, out of disk memory, JVM has run out of memory. These are the reasons. So invalid user input, device failure, uh, out of disk, network not available. Yeah, cool. Why is it necessary? Is because separate error handling code from regular code. Exception provides the means to separate the details of what to do when something out of ordinary happens from the main logic. Propagating errors up the call stack. Have exceptions have the ability to propagate errors reporting up the call stack method. Grouping and differentiating error types. Because all exceptions thrown within a program are objects, the grouping or categorizing of exception is a natural outcome of the class hierarchy. Example of group of related exceptions class are java.io. IO exception is descendants. So separating error handling code from regular code, they provide a means to separate the details of what to do when something out of ordinary happens. propagating errors up the call stack. Exception have the ability to propagate errors up the call stack. Grouping and differentiating error types, because all exceptions are objects. The grouping or categorizing of the exception is a natural outcome of the class hierarchy. An example of a group-related exception: classes are defined in java.io. Write a program to demonstrate the use of multiple catch clause. This catch, catch, catch. This is the last slide we're doing. A package is a collection of similar types of classes, interfaces, and sub-packages. Yeah, I missed interfaces when I spoke about this yesterday. So, collection of similar types of classes, interfaces, and sub-packages. Just like a folder in a file directory. For example, when you write an application program in Java, there may be many individual classes. You can place related classes into a folder and give a name to this folder for organizing these classes. The folder will then be called a package. Packages are used to avoid name conflicts and write better maintainable code. Accessibility rule. Let me ask Sumaya. Let me see if you remember Sumaya. So, um, so tell me, like, something is like a variable or a method is defined as public, what does that mean?
It can be accessed from anywhere inside the package and outside the package.
Okay, if it's declared as default,
Then it can be accessed. It can be accessed only within the package
correct.
and in
So any
classes
and
and in subclasses. I'm not sure about.
within the package, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So any method that we don't give an access modifier to becomes default automatically, and then the protected would only be accessible from within the package, and the subclasses in the other package outside the package, and then private will only be accessed within the package and within the class, not outside, unless you declare it as others. Anything declared public can be accessed within outside the package. Anything private can be seen within that class. If you declare protected in same package and any other package, and default is within the same package. Brilliant. Okay. So we did this today, right? Types of packages. Brilliant. So tomorrow when we come back, we'll again start from the top, because I feel that we are forgetting some of the important pointers. So we'll start from the top and we'll go up until today's thing. So yeah, let's take a half an hour break, because we have been studying since 5, and then we'll come back at 7:30. Anirudh, you okay with 7:30? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll probably spend like 45 minutes to 1 hour, like till 8:30, and then we'll call it a night.
Okay.
So I'll resend the link in half an hour.